Welcome to the Honest Hour. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, the founder of MOT Media and the co-host on MOT Today, which comes out on Sundays, every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right now, we are doing the Honest Hour show. Got a lot of good stuff to cover for you today. First thing that we want to kind of jump into to start this conversation with is going to be an article regarding a blockage in the Senate, which is actually a really good thing, although we got to shed some light on it as well because it's important. So let's jump right into it. So this is the first article that I want to cover today. It has to do with, hey, I have that t-shirt. That's awesome. Yeah. It's no longer for sale because I would have gotten in trouble selling this shirt. I guess there's copyrights on the image. I have to find somebody. So if anybody knows how to make a t-shirt that's kind of like this, let me know. We will definitely work a deal out. You know, they were selling pretty well, but I found out that I cannot sell these t-shirts. And for anybody who wins in 1v1, so for anybody that's just listening, this t-shirt here says, "Be a rebel, start a family," because that is the future. Future is all about creating strong families. And the picture is of of a family sitting in what appears to be like a church pew with an American flag. And yeah, it's copyrighted image. So I was not legally able to sell it. So I need somebody to recreate the image, do another image, do a unique image so we can start selling it again because people do like the shirt. Anyway, want to jump into this article here because this is something that we've touched on quite a bit, and that is domestic terrorism. One of the most popular videos that we made here at MOT that reached almost a million, that reached actually almost like 1.5 million views, was in regards to globalization and the rise of domestic terrorism. Won't anyone think of the white Christian families? Okay, I don't know what you mean by that. The family on the shirt is white. Okay. They're European. They're of European descent. Anyway, so this bill here, so the video that we made on the MOT Today channel was the most popular video we made, and it had like 1.5, 1.3 million views on it, and was covering globalization and then the rise of domestic terrorism because globalization was in jeopardy. And that's going to be something that we cover today with some of the statements President Xi had to tell President Biden. And that's actually really interesting. But anyway, so in regards to this domestic terrorist issue here, in this article, it says Senate Republicans block creation of domestic terrorism task force bill. First came the now defunct and utterly humiliated Biden administration's Ministry of Truth, whatever. So then they attempted to create this task force for domestic terrorism. And that isn't to say that we don't have domestic terrorists. That obviously is a legitimate issue. But the problem with this is the narrative will be constructed in a way that will aim at people who go against the mainstream. Their proof of this is simply when Joe Biden stated MAGA supporters are the most extreme group in political history, in American political history, which is an insane thing to say, given that there have been a lot of radical groups here. And that is going to be the goal of the domestic terrorist task force. I mean, they were already talking about using it against parents who were standing up against critical race theory, the total nonsense and grooming of children. They were standing up and they were asking, some of the people in certain departments were asking, hey, can we send the National Guard to these parents? Hey, can we surveil these parents? And it was found out that they actually did. And it was crazy. So we know that this domestic task force is going to be used to push the agenda and to suppress people from expressing views that go against the mainstream narrative. And so it is very good that this bill is now being blocked in the Senate. I must make note on this, though. Where are your sources? I mean, you can just look this up. I mean, this particular article I'm reading is from Zero Hedge. But if anybody's curious, you can just simply do a Google search and find what I'm saying. I won't be providing sources throughout the show normally, just because that's like the most annoying thing that I got. And when you're going through a truther journey, when you're going through the realization of the lies in our system, the most annoying thing that you can hear is, where are your sources? Just look it up. Oh man, classic. Yeah, 100%. Just look it up. And plus, I did tell you where the source is, but I'm not going to be continuously doing that. Just, you have a brain, you have fingers, you have the internet. Look it up. It's not that hard. Anyway, so we do know that this domestic terrorist group, yes, 100%, they do use Google's algorithm does suppress information. That is 100% factual, which we'll cover in some of this maybe in the show. But this domestic terrorist is, the domestic terrorist issue is going to be used to attack pretty much, quote unquote, conspiracy theorists and any right leaning individual. And so we can see what happened after like January 6th, right? That this bill was really being pushed through at that time. And just because the Republicans are blocking it in the Senate, we can't forget about the fact that they are actually the ones who pushed through the Patriot Act, which the Patriot Act is allowing this bill to exist, or, to attempt to come into existence. The Patriot Act was on the bat, built, was the foundation for this particular bill. So that's something very interesting that's taking place right now. I think that the Republicans are doing it to curry favor of the right wing political, aligned, groups. Yes, the two-party system is a joke. I 100% agree with that. And that's really what I'm trying to get to with this whole point, and going off the deep end. And okay. Yeah, so this bill being blocked is a good thing. However, we shouldn't be fooled by the Republican senators as if they're attempting to really, really do something good, because they're ultimately the ones who issued in the Patriot Act, which allowed for such a bill to be proposed. Now, this is just one thing that we wanted to cover today, and we'll see how this progresses over time. Now, just because the Senate blocks it doesn't mean the House can't pass it. There's definitely going to be a big push, especially with all these mass shootings, to push for domestic terrorist legislation. And we know that this is going to get quite insane, because there is now a movement to prevent eco-terrorism. So people who are committing environmental crimes. We already had a case in Europe somewhere, I can't remember the exact country, where somebody was arrested because they were committing a terrorist attack on the environment, because they forced somebody to take the bus. Not take the bus, but to drive their car, because they stole their bike. They stole their bike, and then they had to take the car that they own, and that was considered domestic terrorist or eco-terrorism. Who is that on your shirt, may I ask? I don't know who it is, but apparently the image is copyrighted, and so I can't sell it anymore. So if anybody knows of any good places that or any, knows how to make cool t-shirts, I'm all game, because people do like the t-shirt. Maybe they are, I am not. All right. So yeah, that was the first thing that I really wanted to cover, because this is something that we've touched on quite a bit. One true shirt. Yeah. One true Colt. Okay. Yeah, for sure. And Yeah, we've covered the domestic terrorism thing for a while because I think that's going to be a big issue, a big part of the narrative for a long time. And it is only going to ramp up, I believe. So you're pro choice. Getting comments here in TikTok. Um, so I'm against abortions. I don't think that they're morally right. However, I can make the argument that pro choice is good in the sense that it eliminates people's bloodlines who are too stupid and weak to want to pass them on. Um, so I don't know. That's kind of the eugenicist in me coming out, where it's like, if you want to, abort your child, then do it because you're stupid. Like you're not even going to be like a good parent if you're already thinking about aborting your child. It's not a good thing, and you're already so brainwashed. And I mean, I get it. Like I'm definitely against abortion, but there's a side of me that's like, yo, if you want to abort your child, you are dumb. Like it's very dumb and a very evil thing to do. And so if that's you and you want to do it, then maybe it's better that you just don't procreate and you let your bloodline die out. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not. I mean, there are some, instances throughout history. There's some studies rather throughout history showing that um, capital punishment works in eliminating crime and taking that pension or whatever you want to call it in the bloodline, because there are some genetic factors in criminality away from society through capital punishment, because then you eliminate that bloodline. So there is some evidence for that. I know Dr. Edward Dunton is the person who I heard this information from, and I think he's a good source of information. There's a nationalistic social. That's pretty cool. Okay, but anyway, overall, no. I mean, I will never, ever, ever have an abortion. Like I would never, ever, ever, ever get rid of my children. I want to have a big family. I encourage everybody to have a big family. That's the main thing. He's a doctor, so he must be smart. Exactly. He is a doctor, so he must be smart. But he's not a doctor that has a white lab coat. But let's see here. You'll never have the choice. Okay. I mean, we got a bunch of trolls. See, sometimes the chat on TikTok is really good. We get a lot of good people in here. Other times, just get a lot of trolls. But that's, I guess, the nature of the beast here. So let's see. The whole lab coats of Illuminati. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, this is something else that I wanted to cover today. It has to do with China, Taiwan, that issue really ramping up. And I do apologize if I'm kind of all over the place. It's been a very, very busy day for me. And I haven't had as much time as I usually do to prep for this show. I usually want to, provide you guys with a lot of good information and make sure that this is going to be a good one. But like I said, today it's just been very hectic. I've been on the go all day for my other business. And then, it's just been a crazy, crazy day. But anyway, so this is an older article that I wanted to cover because it foreshadowed what is to come and what we're going to see with the China and Taiwan invasion. So, right here it says Xi Jinping urges China to arm itself with stronger laws and better lawyers for international struggle. And this was an article written back in February. We actually did a episode on this in one of our no longer existing podcasts that we tried out, the MOT Daily. We covered this specific article, and it was a foreshadowing event of what was to come regarding this China-Taiwan issue. And basically, they were preparing their legal body to get ready for sanctions because they thought sanctions were definitely coming to China. and they think that they are coming to China, especially with these international issues that are arising. Look at China supporting Russia. And so China supporting Russia is going to be bringing them under scrutiny with the Western countries. It officially says yeah, because, okay, so somebody has a comment here in TikTok saying if you Google just Taiwan, it officially says the Republic of China. So I don't know if that's true, but the Taiwanese people originally did come from China because they were fleeing. They were fleeing China because they were part of the Nationalist Party. The Nationalist Party went to China, and they went to Taiwan and then said it was the real China. And Mao and Stalin had plans to take over Taiwan way back in the day, just not really taking it over, but just saying, hey, no, we are the real China, and you're a part of us. Like, you're not a separate thing. So Taiwan has never been viewed as a separate entity from China, from my understanding through history. But the Taiwanese people wanted to, although they're Chinese, so I don't really know why I'm calling them Taiwanese, but they wanted to make Taiwan the real China. So they just wanted to move China, but China's always been where it is. And anyway, yeah, so that's, why, because they want to be the real China, but they're not the real China. China's the real China, and Taiwan, in my opinion, through history, belongs to China. Taiwan belongs to China. And so what we're seeing right now is China gearing up to make that known to the world. Hey, Taiwan is a part of China. And with the Russian Ukrainian invasion that is taking place, I think it has given China the leeway they need, the opportunity they need in order to reclaim Taiwan. And we're going to then see a huge shift in political influence globally. We're then going to see a huge shift in the economy, right? There's going to be, as some say, a bifurcation in our economic world. So you have already seen Russia being removed from SWIFT, but then China is creating its own SWIFT. I don't think it has been released yet, but they're creating their own SWIFT essentially. They are working on creating their own national blockchain. Russia's no longer, I believe they would not be considered, a country that has fiat currency, because they're now backing their ruble with gold and commodities. So it makes it more of a sound currency. And so we're just seeing this huge shift in power, political power, economic power. It is to avoid U.S. sanctions, and it's a very smart move. And this is what's going to help facilitate the shift in control and power on an economic level. I really think that the real sanctions, like the real threatening sanctions, will be put on the Western world more so than the Eastern world, simply because China's taking over most of the supply chain. China's starting to do business at mass scale with Russia when the United States and the Western nations aren't. And they're not afraid to supply their resources to other nations to help out. And so I think that we are going to see a huge shift in the near future of political and economic power on a global, worldwide scale. Let's see. And so it's important to pay attention to, because I think that the real issue that the U.S. is going to get in is with China and Taiwan, that invasion. I don't think that the United States is going to do anything really over in Russia or in the Ukraine. We may send money to them. We're talking about sending special forces troops to Kiev, or however the hell you pronounce it, in Ukraine, since the United States Embassy is coming back there, which, poses a threat for false flags to then start dumping troops in Ukraine. So how does crypto play a role in all of this? That's a really good question, because it's going to allow the technology crypto is built on will allow for the central digital bank currency to be established. It will allow for nations, in my opinion, to remain sovereign. It will allow for the fragmentation of cities within nations to create city states. It'll allow for a lot of things, but the most likely outcome is probably going to be, in my opinion, a I don't know. I don't know what the most likely outcome is going to be with it, but there's a bunch of things that crypto can be used for. It can be used for really good things. It can be used for really bad things. And it's not the boogeyman that the masses think it is. And a lot of the truthers and the conspiracy thinks believe it is. I actually think that it could help in a lot of ways, but ultimately crypto is going to facilitate the change of economics, the economic structure itself. It's going to create a parallel economy in the digital world that will probably far exceed what we have here in the real world. So yeah. Let's see, dude, stop ignoring these questions. What's the deal with all these blatant racists in your chat? I don't know what you're talking about. Trying to cover some of these topics here. But yeah, so there's a lot of questions here. Crypto will be nothing until it's a currency of taxation. Okay. I mean, you can already pay your taxes in crypto in some countries and I believe some states, if I'm not mistaken. I know Ohio, where I live, is talking about allowing for the payment of taxes in crypto and Bitcoin. You currently get taxed for crypto, federal and state. Capital gains tax, yes, but I think what he's talking about is an income tax, and it's as powerful people allow it to be. Yeah, 100%. You know, because crypto is built primarily on belief, just as the fiat currency system. So yeah, crypto is already taxed on multiple levels. I mean, well, you're not actually paying your taxes in crypto, you're paying it in fiat. So I don't know if they mean like everything is crypto and so taxes aren't like when you pay in crypto, you're not converting it over to USD, you're just paying the tax in crypto and then the government accepts that crypto. If you mine crypto, it's taxed as income. I don't know that that's true because then you run into the whole proof of stake. It might be, but like proof of stake, you don't get taxed off the coins that were created through your staking. As far as I know, there's a lot of gray area in crypto. It is. I mine crypto. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's the case. I don't know much about the taxes on that. That's mining. That's not. I know. I know the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. I was saying that I thought that there would be somewhat similar in how they're taxed because proof of stake, you're still mining the coins. The code is doing the work to mine the coins. So why would you get taxed on that? And why would you get taxed on proof of work? I don't know. But I guess you get taxed for mining cryptocurrency. So the more you know. But yeah, and this is, going to play a huge role in the shift of global powers, cryptocurrencies, because as I mentioned earlier, China is working on creating their own private blockchain. And this will allow for their social credit system, I think, to run very well. That not that they actually need it, but they would be able to incentivize people for certain behaviors. And yeah, sorry guys on TikTok, I have to sit you on the laptop. It actually isn't that loud if you're not right next to it. So, I mean, if you are right next to it, it's not that loud. But if you have the phone right on top where the fan is, then yeah, it's going to sound loud. So I do apologize about that. Mark my words, crypto is going nowhere. Okay. I mean, we'll see. It already has gone somewhere. You have El Salvador making it legal tender. How can we assure the existence of our people and a future for white children? I am not a white supremacist. I am not a race supremacist at all. I think that's a very stupid way to view the world. Um, but it is important to preserve a culture. So the simplest way is to have children. If you want to have more white children, then find a white partner, a European partner, and have children. Like that's the simplest way. That's the simplest way. So that would be, the best thing to do. If you want to have more white children, find a white partner and have white children with them. It's not hard. There's no secret to it. Um, but let's see. I too am against race mixing. I mean, I am a mutt myself. I'm Puerto Rican and I am a whole different kind of European. And I will say that there is some confusion that comes along with being a mixed race, because what culture do you identify with? You eventually have to pick a culture that you're going to strongly identify with. And I've strongly identified more so with my European side. And no, these are not white supremacist talking points. You know, people don't really understand what racism means. It means that you believe in the existence of races, and people have the right to choose what race they want to associate with. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because typically cultures in race, there's a strong correlation there. There's a strong connection. Wasn't race a social construct to begin with? It is not a social construct to begin with. That makes no sense. Japanese people are very distinct in their culture from Colombians. Like, it's just nonsense. There is actual differences between races, and that's a natural thing. It's a very natural thing. I don't know why we are ignoring this point. You can see it from country to country, and there's nothing wrong with it. Cultures can be created, yes, and they're usually created amongst a tribe of people, and those tribe of people tend to look alike. Always they look alike. Puerto Ricans are of different races. No, Puerto Ricans are Puerto Ricans. They have a culture. Or you just want to be human. Race and culture are two different things. Yes, I'm not saying that race and culture are the same thing. What I'm saying is culture and race have a strong correlation, right? Certain, if you're of a particular race, there's going to be a large group, right? The whole race is essentially going to have its own culture. It's just the way it is. Puerto Ricans are not a race, dude. You're not making sense. Okay. I mean, yes, there are different races in the world. That is a fact. That is a legitimate fact. And there's nothing wrong with, preferring to associate with other people of your own race. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's very natural to want to associate with people that look like you. Where I think the issue comes into play is when supremacy creeps in, whether it be black supremacy, white supremacy, Asian supremacy. That's the issue. Races in themselves are not better than other races, but we all have a tendency to, bro is afraid of black people. Okay. Uh, Many different social lines. Yeah. So people want to associate with people that they like. And a lot of times the people that you like look like you. These are just the realities of the world. And don't worry, man. They're not going to ask you to dance. Cool, cool, cool. Um, let's see. Let me guess. Your dream world is races keeping to themselves. I am too. 13, 15th is math. Dang. Oh, well. No, I mean, I think it's more natural that way. I really do. I think that you have more of a coherent society in that regard. I think once you have mass migration, it definitely messes with the culture. Um, I definitely for, um, you know, there to be, uh, I think it should be accepted for races to want to just hang out with their own races. I mean, look at I really like Dr. Umar Johnson. He is a big advocate for black people to remain with black people, and they thinks that it's bad for black people to get with white people. He is a big influencer in the black community, and so I think that that's a solid view. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, I don't think that there is, there's obviously we're all so mixed with a bunch of different races at this point that it's insane to be like, let's try to make them, all separate. Um, and I don't agree with segregation. I would never say that I agree with segregation. Yes, Dr. Johnson is a smart man. What creates culture? Is it innate? Culture is created by the people. I mean, it's your rituals and traditions of the tribe, and the tribe tends to look alike. They actually do look alike. There is no tendency to it. They do look alike. The Bible says we will mingle people in the last days. We live in a caste system. So, yeah, so culture is created by a tribe of people. Like the Chinese, they're very racist. They don't care so much for black people, and they don't particularly care for Americans. They think that the Chinese people are the superior race. Laws override what shapes those things, how they look, or their environment. Well, it's a combination, right? So it is partially their environment, but also the way they look and how they treat each other. So I've already talked about this. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So cultures come from a tribe of people. Those tribe of people look alike, and their culture is revolved around their belief system, their environment, their history. And their history comes from their same people. And their history from the people that were before them, their ancestors, looked like them. Okay, so there is a connection between race and culture. It's not saying race creates culture, and it's not saying culture creates race. They're both separate things, but they do work together. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. I think it's very natural, and I don't know why we have such an issue with it. I think the issue comes into play when we talk about supremacy, race supremacy. And as I was saying, the Chinese are notorious for being Chinese supremacist. They believe that China is the most significant race. They believe that they are the chosen people, essentially. They believe they are the center of the earth. I don't know if they really believe that now, but that's been their belief system for a long time. No comparison to the Western world. Let's just be honest, there's groups of leeches on the world. Yeah, but that's with every race. Like there isn't just like a particular race that's a leech. Issues come when you say you're mixed, but says it's a thing. I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, so you choose to be a race. No, I don't. I was born Puerto Rican and European, a bunch of different countries actually from Europe. So yeah, I don't know exactly what country. So no, it wasn't my choice. I can't choose to be black. That's retarded. I can't choose to be Chinese. That's retarded. Like it's insane. It's insane what you're saying. So what do you identify with? Well, I identify that I'm a man, I'm a living being. As far as my race goes, I'm a sort of Rican. I'm a sort of Rican. I'm kind of Puerto Rican. I'm kind of European. Puerto Rico is a country. Many are mixed. Yeah, just like in like pretty much everywhere in the world except for like Asian countries. Why does he have to identify as anything? I mean, yeah, so I mean, yeah, I identify as a man. I identify as a human. As far as my race goes, it's just what I am. I didn't get to choose. My best friend is the same, half BR, half Norwegian. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, what he said, not I. Cool, Lib. All right, so let's get it going here. Let's get going on some other stuff. So, yeah, this was an interesting thing that China said to Joe Biden. Well, when I say China, I mean the president of China, Xi Jinping. He recently said, not recently, but this was when Joe Biden got elected. So there's this quote here, right here. So it says President Joe Biden revealed that after being elected to the White House, Chinese President Xi Jinping cautioned him that democracies are on the decline and that one day autocracies will run the world. We're living through a global struggle between autocracies and democracies. Biden said during his commencement address to the U.S. Navy Academy's graduating class. Quote, I've met more with Xi Jinping than any other world leader has. When he called me to congratulate me on election night, he said to me what he said many times before. The president said on Friday, he said, democracies cannot be sustained in the 21st century. Autocracies will run the world. Why? Things are changing so rapidly. Democracies require consensus, and it takes time, and you don't have time. Now, who knows, first off, if Joe Biden's telling the truth? Who knows if he's telling the truth? But assuming he is telling the truth, and Xi Jinping said that, well, Xi Jinping, I believe, is right. I do believe that democracies are a dying thing, and autocracies, monarchies will make a comeback. I think it's a more natural way of governing as well. Obviously, every system gets corrupt, but democracies are not a good thing, I don't think, because then you just allow. I mean, then you eventually have to placate to the lowest denominator. You have to appease the lowest denominator, and that is not a good thing. It makes a society weaker doing that. So I think it is much better for a country to have strict rules on who can govern it, strict rules on who can vote, as opposed to letting everybody vote. I am not for direct democracy. I'm not a big fan of democracy at all. So I do think that we're going to see, and plus you just have this whole change of mindset amongst the younger generations, especially in men, with the rise of autism, which, by the way, on a side note, I heard an interesting theory of why autism is on the rise, and it was because there's a mass feminization taking place. There's a mass feminization taking place, and autism is like hyper masculinity. So it could just be nature's way of solving it. That's what I heard. I don't know that I agree with it, but it's an interesting theory. Not everyone should be allowed to vote. Yeah, I don't think everybody should be allowed to vote. I think there should be a test people take on their knowledge of politics, civics, and there should also be requirements such as owning land. There should also be I think that you should have a family. I think that only the head of household should vote. I don't agree with the women voting. I think it was an attack on the family. That's what I think. I think that head of household should vote. Landowners should vote. There should be a strict test. I'm not sure how the test should be created, but there should be a strict test on who should be able to vote. And there was never a mask on. I've been upfront with my belief systems this entire time. Color you are, I care who you are. The USA gives the greatest chance for individuals to be successful. Yeah, I guess. But you can be very successful in other countries as well. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities here. But overall, our political system is very corrupt. And I think that there's better ways of governing. I think historically there are better ways of governing. I'm a big fan of city-states. Yes, if you were born with money. You don't necessarily need to be born with money. You can definitely make a lot happen. I have a lot of people in my family. I look at my parents in particular. They both grew up very poor, both doing very well for themselves. My father is a successful entrepreneur, owns real estate. He's doing well for himself. Didn't even graduate high school. Had a very rough childhood. So, yeah, it's there's a lot of opportunity here in America on an economic level. So, yeah, nobody's disputing that. I'm just saying that I think that there are better political systems. I don't agree with our current political system. I don't agree with the idea of letting everybody vote, especially this idea of allowing teenagers to vote, I think first off, I have a different perspective on like women voting than I believe most people do, and that is you have to have the drive to become successful financially, 100%. So you essentially want white landowning men. I think I've said this before. No, that's not at all what I said. I said I never specified a race. Once again, there's a difference between, if you want to call it racism, and supremacy, in race supremacy. There's a huge difference. I do not advocate for supremacy of any kind. I think that if you're, a black person, if you're an Asian person, and you live in the United States and you're a landowner, you're the head of a household, you can pass certain tests to show that you're not stupid, and and you're politically wise in some way. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can try to hide your racism all you want, bro. I'm not hiding it. I literally said that I think there's nothing wrong with racism, but I think there is something wrong with supremacy. Nobody's hiding it. Nobody's hiding it. I'm very upfront. I'm going to be very real with you guys. Like, nobody's hiding it. Racism isn't a bad thing. It's very natural. What is bad and what is unnatural and what is weak is supremacy. Race supremacy is a very weak thing. It's a very, very weak thing. That I don't agree with. That I do not agree with. I will never agree with. Well, at least he is honest. Yeah, this is called the honest hour, and this is what we're here to talk about. Like, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion. I think it's very natural if one considers himself a racist. I think where the issue comes into play is when you are a supremacist, when you think your race is better than other races. Sending out code signals. Well, I'm fine with pushing people off a cliff, but I'm against them hitting the ground. Totally different thing. You are speaking totally illogical. I'm in the 92 percentile for income for my age, and I didn't work that hard. Awesome. Cool. But wouldn't it be like segregationist? No, I never said that I don't think that you can't intertwine with other races. I myself am a mixed race. I'm Puerto Rican and European. So there's definitely some, like, it happens. It happens. It definitely happens. I do think it is better for a people, for a society, to have a more homogenous group, a more coherent group. I think you are allowed to have a more coherent and cohesive society if there is, a predominant culture and a predominant race in it. I think you start having a lot of issues when you start trying to intermingle a lot of different cultures. And by that, you then start to intermingle a bunch of different races. Now, races can assimilate to other cultures and become more identify with other cultures more than what their native culture may be. So definitely would not say I'm a racist. It is a very natural, definitely wouldn't say I'm a segregationist. I'd rather. It's definitely a very natural thing. If you just look at early America had German neighborhoods, they had Irish neighborhoods, they had Jewish neighborhoods. The Irish didn't go into the Jewish neighborhood, the Jewish didn't go in the German neighborhood, and this was just a very natural thing, right? People want to stay with their own people. It's just very natural. Are you a Proud Boys member? No, I think that they're very gay. I think the Proud Boys are very gay. Oh, this black dude is one of the good ones. He's basically one of us white folks. Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to say, just like they say with the opposite, hey, this white guy is really cool. He's just like us black folks. I mean, come on. It's kind of funny what you said. Let's see. Columbus Day was made after multiple Italians were hung. Interesting. But yeah, so the there's some other things that I want to cover today. Let's see. Cultures are singular, own perspectives, not a segregated problem. I don't know how many times I got to keep explaining this. Like, cultures derive from a tribe of people. Those tribe of people look alike. Culture comes from their history, their belief, their traditions, their rituals. All of that stems from their ancestors. And their ancestors looked like them. So there is a connection between race and culture. Anyway, now this is another topic that I really wanted to dive into. So it's regarding virtual reality and what the World Economic Forum wants to do with children uh, using virtual reality. So let me go ahead and share this here. Give me 1 second. Got to move the phone around. All right. All right. So it says World Economic Forum wants kids to learn in the metaverse to curb climate change. Um, yeah, there are many intersections over time. So, getting to this article here, it says disconnecting children from the physical world and plugging them in to a virtual one is the way to go when it comes to the future of education, according to the World Economic Forum. This is one of the gems that have come out of this year's gathering in Davos with a post on WEF's website arguing that this direction is necessary, among other things, to combat climate change. Rather, pressure to do so will drive the digitalization of education. Yeah, in the East, it is not called racism; it's called pride. 100%, 100%. So, I really want to stay on topic here, but the chat's interesting, and I want to interact with the people that are, putting their time. And yes, the WEF is a pile of shit pushing globalist government, exactly, which will dive into the whole virtual reality thing and what they're doing with children. So yes, what M. Ruggiero said, which is Mick. He's the co-host for MOT Today and does a lot of other stuff for MOT. But yeah, so like Puerto Ricans, Puerto Ricans are very prideful people. Mexicans are very prideful. Blacks are very prideful. I don't really know like Jamaicans, Africans. There's a bunch of different countries in Africa, but there's nothing wrong with them being prideful. But then when somebody who is European wants to, so we're Venezuelans. Yeah. So like prideful people. There's nothing wrong with having pride where you come from. But for whatever reason, if you have white pride, no, 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 no. You can't do that. Very hypocritical. A lot of these ideas around race came after colonialization. I don't believe that. I think that it goes back all the way to antiquity. I think that is revisionist history, what you're spewing. And if you look back in antiquity, it was the same way. Same way. Way before colonialization, what you're referring to. So, if you really study, I did. That's what I majored in college. Like that was my focus. So yes, you got to look at firsthand documents. Like that's like one of the most important things that you can learn when it comes to studying history, meaning that they didn't call it race at all. Well, race itself, the word was invented in like the 1960s, but there always has been a race. Like just because there wasn't a word for it, like there's this beautiful quote by Shakespeare. I believe I'm going to paraphrase it, but it says, if a rose was called something else, would it not smell beautiful? Would it not still smell beautiful? So, anyway, getting back to this whole virtual reality thing. So, the WEF wants to drive children into virtual reality. And so, this is what some of the article says pertaining what the World Economic Forum had addressed. So it says children are now overly reliant on items like textbooks, notebooks, pencils as learning tools, should in the future become immersed in virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality environments, writes Dr. Ali Saeed bin Harmal al, I don't even know. All right. The pandemic is cited as a good event. So yeah, there's going to be this huge push for children to use virtual reality as a tool of education. There is a rose by other names will still smell the same. Exactly. Thank you. Kate Flo. I think that's what it says. No, it's facts. Something you don't like. So yeah, the World Economic Forum wants children to use virtual reality for education to curb climate change. And I was actually in the process of lining up an interview with the creator of the first virtual reality high school in America. I believe it is located in Florida. We had times arranged, things fell through. Hopefully, sometime in the future, she can come on Minds of Tomorrow and we can have that interview. But the purpose of the school is to be completely online in virtual reality and teach children via virtual reality. Now, there's a lot of benefits to this and a lot of negatives to this. First off, we all know that in our education, right, in our high school education, the public school educational system is not the greatest thing in the world. There's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of lies. And so, with that, it will only amplify and further indoctrinate children using virtual reality, showing these things in a totally different world. There's a lot of other issues that come and play with that, but propaganda will run rampant, and miseducation, misinformation, and just straight up lies will run rampant. Push of metaverse, lobbying, amplifier. And it will be a very bad thing as far as that goes. For a lot of the children that'll be plugged into that system, it'll be detrimental for them, I believe. There's a lot of benefits to virtual reality as well. I'm not a Luddite. I'm not against technology. I actually own an Oculus Quest 2, which is now a Meta Quest 2. That's another thing. So we'll jump into that too here in a second. There's actually bigger issues than that. And so one of the biggest issues that is coming out of studies for virtual reality is this right here. And we'll look at a study here too in a second, but I will flip the camera around for everybody to see this. Not sure what facts you're talking about, not saying much. He's just a troll. That guy right there. Marilyn Marl. I don't know how the freak you pronounce your name. Here we go. So this video right here, I'll go ahead and flip the camera around for you guys. Give me a second. Let's come on. How do I nope. There it is. Boom. All right. So this was a Stanford study on virtual reality, on children specifically. And this is going to be a huge issue, I think. And part of the reason why, there's a lot of things that tie into this, but let's get into it.
And Google's Cardboard are generating huge excitement about the...
Oh, hang on, let me slow down the speed. All right, here we go.
Facebook's Oculus and Google's Cardboard are generating huge excitement about the entertainment and educational potential of virtual reality. Jeremy Bailenson sees potential that's even more exciting and uncertain. His Stanford University lab is studying what effects virtual reality has in the real world for adults and children.
So it turns out if you take a elementary school child and you bring him or her to a lab and you give them a virtual experience, a week later, when we bring those same kids back, 50% of them will believe that that virtual experience happened in the physical world.
Boom, right there. That is huge. So we'll just stop the video right there because that's like one of the most important things to touch on in regards to this push to put children in VR mask and have them learn that way. Did you not hear what he just said? In the study that they conducted, they would have children come in there, put on the virtual reality headsets, and 50% of them would think that they were real events that took place. Real events that take place. And that's not good. So that just goes to what I was saying, like the damage that can be done using virtual reality, especially to teach children. Now, anybody who's a truther here, anybody who's into conspiracy theories and knows about the lies of the government will understand that it will be much harder for children to become awakened over time when their indoctrination is going to be so ingrained via virtual reality. Once again, I think there's a lot of benefits to virtual reality, right? It can help with a lot of things. It can help you train for war, I believe, in certain ways. It can help you become a better shooter, probably in certain ways, like if you want to be a better hunter. It can probably help you become more athletic, more fit in certain ways, more coordinated in certain ways. It will give you the opportunity to train in environments that you wouldn't be able to train in real life. Well, you could train in real life, but with less risk. So I think that there's a lot of benefits to virtual reality. For instance, one of the use cases for virtual reality is helping children who are cross-eyed and correcting their cross-eyedness with virtual reality. So there are some benefits to it. And but there's definitely some negative things that I want to talk about. And so right here is a study that I wanted to reference after we just talked about or watched that video. This also further illustrates the point. So this is on pubmed.gov, and it is titled Virtual Reality Induces Disassociation and Lower Sense of Presence in Objective Reality. Now, this is just the abstract. So it says, this study utilizes an innovative experimental paradigm to investigate the effects of virtual reality on a disassociative experience and the sense of presence. A non-clinical sample of 30 people were administered measures of disassociation, sense of presence, and immersion before and after an immersion in a virtual environment. Results indicate an increase in dissociative experiences, depersonalization, and derealization, including a lessened sense of presence in objective reality as a result of exposure to VR. And so basically they're just saying that you're going to have this, there's a strong connection between like an increase in dissociation and virtual reality, which makes complete sense. So it says metaverse is numbing of social interaction in a way, but it can also enhance it. I mean, think about what we're doing here. You're interacting with people in the chat. I'm interacting with people in the chat. I can communicate to people this way. And so it's not all bad, but there is some negative things to virtual reality that we should address. And one of them being this dissociation. And I believe this will be a huge push for drugs in the future. I think that you're going to have an increase in mental illness because of virtual reality. And you're probably going to have people being heavily medicated for psychosis and other things. And virtual reality won't be the main culprit, but it will be a part of the problem. It'll be a part of what's causing the problem. And it's just important to keep these things in mind. It's something I wanted to touch on today. I think that it's very important that people understand where we are heading and what can be done. Like I said, I own a virtual reality headset. My kids will not be allowed to use it for quite some time because they're very young, and it does hinder their development in some regards. And as we have already read, it can increase dissociation, depersonalization. It can cause them to have false memories through the virtual reality, right? Because like they said, 50% of the children who had the virtual reality experience were then associating it with a real life event. And that's a huge issue. And there are people, you can go on YouTube and you can find people talking about how they are dreaming in VR and how their dreams have been affected because of VR, how in some instances grown adults are confusing reality with virtual reality. So this is just not a thing that's going to be affecting children, but also affecting adults. And so there are going to be useful things for virtual reality, but there's also going to be harmful things with virtual reality too that we shouldn't ignore. And that's why we want to cover it here. So, those were the topics that I really wanted to cover today. I know we kind of went all over the place, and, it's there's a lot to cover here. There really is a lot to cover here. And we did go all over the place. The chat got a little distracted on the whole, my views on race, culture, all that stuff. Got a little controversial, but, for the most part, people are getting it. And, I think that we're going to see a huge change in that moving forward. And I think it's going to be a result of the left and them pushing identity politics, them putting critical race theory in the minds of everybody and pushing that propaganda. I think that's going to be a huge cause of the backlash that's going to be seen racially. I do think that there's going to be not good things happening in the U.S. in the future. I think that there will be some sort of balkanization. Leftists have a collective IQ equivalent to a warm jar of mayonnaise. Yeah. A lot of them do. There's some really high IQ ones, though, there as well. You can't just lump them all together. But definitely, and it has to do, I think, a lot with trauma, a lot to do with their parents not loving them. Why? Because the minority party is going to start a war. No, I think that it's more of cultural tensions and states wanting to be separate. I think there's going to be a balkanization in America. And I think that we're going to live through the balkanization. And this is why I think that city-states are going to make a comeback, by and large, because of this balkanization. And it's going to be beneficial in the long run because it then, prevents the whole globalization. It makes it harder for the globalist agenda to work. It's, to work in general, which is a good thing. Conservative states can't support themselves. How do they plan on surviving? I don't know what you mean, because a lot of the farmland is in conservative areas. So I don't know what you mean. Like, they could definitely support themselves. Conservative states are federally dependent on what? I mean, they can grow their own food, as can liberal states. I mean, liberal states can do the same thing too. It has nothing to do with their political leaning to determine whether or not they can be self-sufficient. You can be self-sufficient in pretty much any state. So what you're saying is complete nonsense. What are the two states with the most agricultural production? I'm not sure. Let's see. Two states with the most agricultural production. This is ranking them, so we're going to check this out here. That is right. California is huge. This is true. Yeah, they do provide a lot of the fruit, nuts, vegetables, but it's important to know that you don't really need vegetables, you don't really need nuts, and you don't really need fruits to live. However, yeah, so they are definitely a big one, but this is a list. So California, Iowa, Nebraska, Texas, Minnesota, Illinois, Kansas, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Indiana are the top 10. Now, these states could be self-sufficient. Why couldn't they be self-sufficient? The majority of corn and soy isn't food. Yeah, I know. 100%. Yeah, I don't think corn's good for you. I don't think soy's good for you. I believe that the optimal diet for humans is a animal-based diet. 100%. Raw liver, raw heart. I eat raw liver. I eat raw heart. I eat a raw steak. I eat raw chicken. I think raw foods or raw meats are definitely the way to go. I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert. I'm not giving medical advice. Do your own research. But yeah, I think that animal products are the best way for humans to go, which is why I made the comment that I made that you don't need fruits, vegetables, and nuts to live. Vegetables are actually very damaging to the body. Nuts are indigestible. Seeds are indigestible. Vegetables are mostly indigestible. California can go fish in the ocean. They could do that as well. So your whole argument that, oh, well, conservative states are federally dependent, you do understand that, like, you can be self-sufficient in Alaska. Like, you don't need the federal government to exist. Obviously, there are a lot of benefits to it in the society that we've structured. Do require the government. But if you're changing your society, if you're having a complete overhaul, if these things that I'm saying do come to fruition, then there's going to be a complete change in governance. There's going to be a complete change in societal structures. Conservative states are financially dependent on the federal government. You don't, dude, cryptocurrency changes that all the way. First off, changes the game. Secondly, states like Kansas are making it so gold is legal tender. So if you are then gold and silver, you then reduce the reliance on the federal government. I don't understand how you don't understand this. And I don't understand why you were saying only conservative states. It doesn't make sense to me because liberal states also. Like, I don't know if you're trying to trigger me with conservatism, like being against conservatism, because I am against conservatism. I think the ideology is a total psyop to distract what would be, not saying that they're not, but would tend to go towards a more natural, holistic, traditional view of life. It tends to take those people and put them under the conservative umbrella, which I think conservatism is evil. I don't think it's a good ideology. I don't think it's good at all. But yeah, no state has to be financially dependent on the federal government. You have Miami creating Miami coin, their own cryptocurrency. Like, I don't understand why you're saying what you're saying. Like, I guess I do understand it, but you're not properly informed on the situation, maybe, or you just choose not to be. Crypto is a joke. Okay, people be haters for sure. I don't know why you say crypto is a joke. I mean, the technology is great. It's censorship resistance. That's what it provides. It provides instant transactions on certain blockchains. There's like, it's an improvement on the current economic system. Why is cryptocurrency a joke? Why is it a joke? People can just say fiat currency is a joke, which it's more so a joke than cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency has a lot of good technology to it. I mean, it's just a fact. Well, the Republican Party was and is the anti-slavery civil rights party. Don't go with that whole narrative. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because a fixed amount of currency is bad because it increases its values increase. I don't know what planet you live on, my man. That is insane. A fixed amount of currency is bad. I think that's how you preserve your purchasing power. You do know when they can print as much money as they want, the purchasing power goes down. I mean, you think inflation is good? I mean, that's why that's why you're paying more at the gas pump. That's why you're paying more at the grocery store, because they printed 40% of all the money in circulation in 2020. Inflation's not all bad, but it's definitely not better than deflation. Overall, deflation is better because your purchasing power increases. You don't need as much money to buy as much things. You can do more with less money. In an inflationary environment, as we currently live in, you can do less with more money. Like, it's the opposite. It's the total opposite. And no, I think I remember you. You were very disrespectful when you were on the chat last time. So I'm not going to let you come back on here. You no longer get to come on the podcast. But if anybody else wants to, you can. But I will talk to you through the chat. Globalization wants hyperinflation to usher in New World SDR. I think it's more so the central bank digital currency. There are 6 people in here. Okay, cool. And there's people on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. So this is the only place that we're streaming. Yeah, so I do think that they want hyperinflation, and I do think one of the ways that they're going to try and continue the hyperinflation is with the metaverse and cryptocurrencies. They're going to be able to create this whole new digital economy, which will allow them to pump money, print more money because their stable coins will be backed by the fiat currency. And then you can just print more money. So then you're going to buy these digital assets in the metaverse. But I do think the big concern is going to be when deflation hits, because we do have countries defaulting on their credit. And that's going to be bad. You can't print money if you can't make more debt, because that's the other thing. Inflation, the only way that like the countries can keep printing money, especially under fiat, is through debt. So fixed currency is increasing its value. It's act as a tax on the do you think that inequalities are bad? So if inequalities are bad, then there should be no men and women. There should just be one sex, one gender. Yes, it does. You obviously don't know how the economic system works. They can't save because of inflation. Dumb. Like, they need to have, back in the day before inflation went through the roof, people, poor people, middle class people, put money in a savings account and they got huge interest rates. Extreme inequality is a natural thing. I don't know what you're talking about. It's very natural. And printing money doesn't increase debt. You don't know the economic system. You don't know the economic system at all, because in order to print the US dollar, we need more debt. Literally, you need more debt to print the US dollar. And the only reason I'm being rude to this person is because he's not a very good person, but I'm entertaining his talking points still. Maybe he's just not loved enough. I don't know. Poison is natural. It isn't good. Depends on what it's used for. I mean, poison isn't good or bad. It's amoral. Objects are amoral. They don't have a good or bad thing to them. It's what you do with the object that makes it good or bad. And it's not even the object that's good or bad. It's your actions that are good or bad. You're making no sense. Extreme inequality is a very natural thing. Just look at the Pareto distribution. 80% of the things belong to 20% of the people. In a company, there's extreme inequalities because 80% of the work done is done so by 20% of the workers. Like, this is just nature. Rat poisoning led to a blood thin. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, inequalities are natural and they're good. They're beautiful. I'm glad my wife and I are not equal, because if we were equal, we would not be able to have our beautiful children. I'm glad that there are inequalities in the world, because then the world can be what it is. And I love the world the way it is. I think that the world is a beautiful place. She is equal. No, she's not. She's factually not. I am stronger than her. Differences don't mean you are literally retarded. You are literally. How do you say that? Differences don't mean unequal. I don't get you. That's literally what it means. So, what's the opposite of difference? Similar. Similar is equal. They're alike. Look up the definition. No, you don't tell me what to do. So the kid's got her brains and your good looks. I mean, yeah. What do you mean? No, same. Yeah, okay. Same. Same is equal. Same is equal. Different is unequal. They are not equal. They are not equivalent. I don't know why that's so hard to understand. And no, my wife and I are not equals. I'm the head of the household. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. I'm the head of the household. I make rules. I determine what we do, what we don't do, where we go, where we don't go. That doesn't mean that my wife doesn't have a say in what we do, where we won't do, where we go, where we won't go. But ultimately, the authority lies in the man, in the relationship. Listen to his beta cook. Okay. I don't, dude. Okay. Like, all right. You know, it's anybody who's had a relationship with a woman knows that that's just the way it works. That's just the way it works. Differences doesn't mean unequal. It does. How can something be different but equal? Explain that to me. Like, it makes no sense. If something is different, they are not equal to each other. They are not the same. So, yeah, I mean, no, men and women are not equal, and they shouldn't be. I don't think that women should be allowed in law enforcement in any way, aside from maybe answering the phone. Husband and wives have different roles due to different strengths. Is that what you mean? Yes, because we are unequal. There are inequalities. Equal, whatever. And I don't believe in one person, one vote. I don't like. I think that that's a whole nother issue that I talked about earlier. But yes, is that what you mean? Yes. Yes. We have our different roles. We have our different strengths. You play to that. And we have different roles and different strengths because we are unequal. There are areas that I am better than her at, and there's areas that she's better than me at. For instance, she's much more nourishing and caring than me, which is a very good thing because she's a mother. And so she does a very good job at being a mother. She does a very good job at, just being a great wife. Right. That makes you different, not better. Nobody said they're better. This is what people get confused. Nobody is saying better. Like, you're conflating things that don't even make sense. Landowners should vote, non-landowners, not so much. Agree with that. Agree with that. I agree with that. I understand what you mean. Nobody's saying that I'm better than my wife, and I'm not saying that my wife is better than me. It's not what I'm saying. Men in general are definitely better in certain areas than women, and women are definitely better than men at certain areas. For instance, I think that women are much better caretakers. Much better caretakers. Unequal means that they're not the same, means that there's differences. I don't know what you like there's different qualities. Someone has to be better and others worse to be unequal. False. 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 Because do you become a better person because you're better at shooting basketball than somebody? No, it doesn't make any sense what you're saying. That's literally the definition. It doesn't make any sense what you're saying that, hey, I can shoot a basketball better than this person. Therefore, I'm better than this person as a person. Like, I am more skillful than them at basketball. So, like, yes, in certain areas, it means that you're better than worse at them. But as an overall general scale, it doesn't mean that you're better or worse than them. Like, there's inequalities in IQ, but it doesn't mean because somebody has a really high IQ that they're a better person than somebody with a lower IQ. The lower IQ person could be equally as good of a person, maybe a better person, but those are all the inequalities. So you can't just generalize it. You can't just generalize it. It doesn't make any sense. In general, but there are outliers. Would you agree with that? Yeah, 100%. There are definitely outliers. There's always an exception to the rule. Always. Always. So, yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother topic to go down, but we explored it a little bit. But yeah, men and women are not equal. And that's a beautiful thing. To say you are unequal as a whole implies better or worse overall. No, it doesn't. It means that there are certain skill sets, certain strengths, and certain weaknesses. that an individual has. It doesn't make you better or worse because maybe in a particular area you'll be better than them. Like, okay, I shoot basketballs better than you. Therefore, I'm a better shooter than you. Right? But that doesn't mean I'm a better driver than you. It doesn't mean that I'm a better thinker than you. It doesn't mean that I'm a better person than you. Aren't all things at the end of the day? I don't know. Ecclesiastical, a noblesse. I don't know what that is. So is your wife an equal partner to you? No, she is not. No. And anybody that's honest about the male-female sexual dynamic knows that there's inequalities. That's why it takes different skill sets to make the world function. 100%. 100%. Am I better? In certain areas, yes, I am better than my wife. And in certain areas, she is better than me. I've already said that. My wife is better than me in certain areas. I'm better than my wife in certain areas. But is she a better person than me? Am I a better person than her? Like in an overall generality, what you're trying to do here is incorrect. It's false thinking. Like this is there's compartments to it. So wouldn't that make you equal but different strengths and areas? No. That would then make you unequal. I don't know why this is so hard to comprehend. There are inequalities. Nothing is black and white. There are things that are black and white. I will disagree with that. I mean, the sun comes up every morning. The moon comes up every night. There are things that are black and white. Nobles are obligated. More is expected of the more talented. Okay. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I agree with that because you don't understand English. Okay. Let's see here. What can we do with this person? Let's get him out. Blocked. I just put the ban hammer on that guy because he's just annoying. This user will not be able to enter the host. Boom. Cool. Fair enough. I was referring to people's skill set. Yeah. So, all right, guys. I mean, unless there's something else that you guys want to talk about, I think I'm going to get out of here. Unless there's something else, like I said, that you guys want to discuss. But thank you for tuning in. We will be back here on Monday, even though I know it's a holiday. We'll be back here on Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to tune in to the MOT Today Show at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays. See, man, you're throwing out these words to me. I got to look them up. Let me see. Exfo. Before I get out of here, I want to see what he's saying. It's a Latin phrase. Let's see. Before we get out of here, we got to find what this means. Peace be with you. Thank you. Peace be with you too, brother. Peace be with you too. All right, guys. So I'm out of here. We'll see you on Sunday. Much love. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for all the participation. It has been good. All right. Much love. Peace.